Hi, I'm Sophia, a 28-year-old new mother learning to navigate the beautiful yet challenging world of motherhood. The first days at home with my newborn son were a mix of pure joy and overwhelming exhaustion, while his presence filled our lives with happiness. The physical recovery from childbirth proved far harder than I had imagined. The house was in constant disarray, laundry piled high, dishes left untouched in the sink. One afternoon, as I was desperately trying to soothe my crying son, the doorbell rang. To my surprise, it was Linda, my mother-in-law, arriving unannounced. Her eyes swept over the cluttered living room before landing on me with a mixture of concern and judgment. "I thought I'd drop by to see how you're doing, dear," she said, stepping over a scattered baby toy. "Tom mentioned you might need some help." "Thanks, Linda. Things are a little hectic, but we're getting by," I replied, trying to keep the tension out of my voice. Linda wandered into the kitchen, eyeing the pile of dishes. "It looks like you need more than just a little help," she remarked pointedly. "Is this how you plan to raise my grandson?" Her words cut deep, the weight of her judgment pressing down on my already fragile emotions. "I'm doing my best," I said quietly, clutching my son a bit tighter. Linda sighed, her tone sharp. "Sophia, being a mother is about getting your priorities straight, and right now, it seems like you aren't prioritizing anything." Before I could respond, Tom walked in. Sensing the tension, he quickly tried to smooth things over. "Mom, Sophia's doing an incredible job. The baby's been up all night, and it's been rough." But Linda wasn't backing down. "Tom, she needs to understand what's important here. It's not just about cleaning, it's about taking responsibility. She's not meeting the family standards." Tom glanced at me, then back at his mother, torn between defending me and appeasing her. "Mom, please, now's not the time. Sophia's still recovering." "That's exactly when discipline matters most," Linda snapped, her voice growing sharper. "If she learns now, she'll handle it better in the future. You can't go easy on her." Tom hesitated, but then, to my horror, he agreed. "Maybe you're right, Mom. Maybe Sophie does need to toughen up." "Exactly," Linda nodded, pushing Tom toward me. "Show her this won't be tolerated." Before I could react, Tom raised his hand and struck my cheek. The sound echoed through the room, a brutal reminder that a line had been crossed. I held our son close, his cries mixing with my own heartbreak. "Tom, what have you done?" I whispered through tears. The physical pain was nothing compared to the crushing weight of betrayal. "This is for your own good, Sophia. You need to learn," Tom said, his voice empty, avoiding my gaze. The room grew still, save for the soft whimpers of my son. Tom glanced at me, a mix of frustration and shame painting his face, while Linda stood in the background, her expression unreadable but her stance unwavering. What was meant to be a supportive visit had spiraled into an attack on my parenting and my self-worth. As Linda made her way to the door, she whispered something to Tom. I couldn't catch it all, but her condescending tone and the way Tom's lips tightened told me it was far from supportive. That night, as I cradled my son, a sense of dread settled over me. The family that was supposed to uplift me now felt more like a courtroom where I was constantly judged. The sting on my cheek and the ache in my heart only solidified what I needed to do. For my sake and for my child, I needed a way out. The house, once my home, now felt like a prison, with Tom and Linda as the jailers. After Tom had slapped me, under Linda's toxic influence, I couldn't bear to sleep next to him, not with my son in my arms. I retreated to the nursery, the one place that had become my refuge. As I rocked my son back to sleep, the day's events replayed in my mind. Each replay sharpened my resolve. By morning, when Tom left for work and Linda disappeared into her own world, I picked up the phone. "Jessica?" I said when she answered, my voice trembling. "It's me. I need that help you offered." "Sophia, say no more. I'll be there today with the truck. We'll figure out the rest later," Jessica replied, her voice strong and comforting. Our plan was simple but daring. I would pack everything I could during the day, just the essentials for my son and me. Jessica would help me move everything to her place before Tom returned. I couldn't risk confronting him. I knew he'd try to pull me back with apologies. Or worse, Linda's manipulations might drag me under again. As I packed, every baby toy and piece of clothing weighed heavy with memories and regrets. But the echo of Tom's slap and the coldness in Linda's eyes were all the reminders I needed that staying wasn't an option. By late afternoon, most of our belongings were stowed in boxes, hidden in the garage. Jessica arrived just as the sun began to set, a ray of hope on one of the darkest days of my life. "Ready?" she asked, taking in the scene of my life reduced to packed boxes. "As ready as I'll ever be," I said, holding my son close. We moved swiftly, packing the truck with quiet determination. The nursery, my safe haven, was the last room we cleared. I took a moment to breathe, a silent farewell to the life I once dreamed of building with Tom. As I drove away, I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror, a chapter closing with a heart heavy yet filled with hope. My baby slept soundly in the backseat, blissfully unaware of the shift but finally safe. This was the first night of our new life, one free from fear and manipulation. At Jessica's place, the contrast to the oppressive atmosphere of my former home couldn't have been clearer. Here, in this sanctuary of peace and support, my resolve only grew. I wasn't just planning to escape, I was preparing to expose Tom and Linda for who they truly were, ensuring they couldn't manipulate the story to their advantage or hurt anyone else again. I started subtly, reconnecting with family and friends under the pretense of casual conversations. As we talked, I began recording any mentions of Linda's controlling behavior or Tom's strange obedience to her. Some people were hesitant, but many had no idea how deep Linda's manipulation ran. Over time, these small pieces of evidence formed a bigger picture. I gathered texts, voicemails, and recorded calls. The most damning piece was a video I captured of Linda instructing Tom on how to control me. Her words a chilling reminder that this was about power, not care. With everything ready, I chose a family gathering at Tom's sister's anniversary party as the place for the confrontation. It was neutral ground, with enough relatives present, some of whom had quietly expressed discomfort with Linda's dominance. On the day of the event, tension gripped me. I arrived with Jessica, who had promised to stand by me. The usual greetings were stiff, and I could feel the undercurrent of unease, as whispers of Tom and Linda's recent behavior had spread through the family. After the initial pleasantries, I stood up, hands trembling but voice steady. "There's something important I need to share with all of you today," I began, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. "This is about Tom and his mother, Linda, and how their actions have affected not just me and my son, but the entire family." Tom's face paled, panic flashing in his eyes as he tried to cut me off. "Sophia, we don't need to do this here." But I didn't stop. I took out my phone and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker. "This isn't just a personal issue," I said, and hit play. The room went dead silent as Linda's voice filled the air. Her cold directives, Tom's hesitant agreements, their discussions on how to correct me. The reactions ranged from disbelief to disgust. Tom's aunt, who had always been supportive, looked utterly betrayed. "Linda, is this true?" she asked, her voice thick with disappointment. "Were you forcing Tom to do all this?" Linda's face contorted with fury, her voice tight with denial. "It's all out of context." But Tom's cousin, usually a quiet observer, stood up and spoke. "No, it's not. We've all seen signs of this for years. We just didn't want to admit it." The room erupted. Relatives began sharing their own stories, small moments they had overlooked. Now seeing the full scope of Linda's manipulation, Tom sat there, ashen and silent, as he began to see the extent of the web his mother had spun around him. The family gathering transformed into a reckoning, with Linda's influence being picked apart, piece by piece. As the family argued, I felt the weight on my shoulders finally lift. The truth was no longer just mine to bear, it was out in the open for everyone to see. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the family's realization was stark and sobering. They had all been under Linda's control in some way, and the shock was palpable as they came to terms with it. For me, walking away from Tom was a painful but necessary step toward reclaiming my life. As the family gathering dispersed, the weight of my decision finally sank in. I gathered my son, who remained blissfully unaware of the chaos surrounding him, and with one last glance at the family home, I stepped into the unknown. Tom stood there, watching us go, his eyes filled with sorrow and resignation. His voice, once so familiar, was now a distant whisper as he murmured a weak goodbye. But it was Linda who faced the harsher reality. The family she had once controlled so tightly was now turning away from her, each member grappling with their own sense of betrayal. The blame for the fractures in the family rested squarely on her shoulders. Her attempts to reclaim control were ignored, the damage done by the evidence and confessions at the gathering far too great. In the weeks that followed, Tom reached out repeatedly, sending a mixture of apologies, pleas for forgiveness, and promises of change. But the memory of his raised hand and the influence of his mother behind his actions were insurmountable barriers. The trust was broken beyond repair, and with it, the foundation of our marriage crumbled. I found refuge in a small apartment far from the neighborhood I once called home, a place where my past wasn't known. Jessica remained my rock, helping me navigate this new chapter. My days became filled with the simple routines of caring for my son and rebuilding a life free from the shadows of manipulation. Healing was slow and at times, painful. Some days, the weight of everything threatened to overwhelm me, but the freedom to make my own choices without fear kept me moving forward. I started therapy and joined support groups for single mothers, slowly piecing myself back together into someone stronger, more resilient. My son's laughter became my compass, guiding me through the darkest moments. His milestones, his first steps, his words, became the bright spots that lit up my path. As time passed, so did my confidence. Months became a year, and I found myself not just surviving, but thriving. One evening, As I tucked my son into bed in our cozy apartment, walls covered with his drawings and toys scattered around, I took a moment to reflect. The pain of the past still lingered, but it had become just a shadow, fading in the light of this new beginning. The love and support I found in my friends, and most of all in my son, had woven a safety net that caught me on the hardest days. Sitting down with a cup of tea, I realized I was finally ready to share my story. I started a blog, a space to talk about my experiences, to connect with others who might be battling their own demons of manipulation and abuse. Each post became a step away from the victim I had once been and a step closer to the advocate I was becoming. As I close this chapter of my story, I want to leave you all with a question. Is it truly possible to break free from manipulative family dynamics? Or do their shadows linger with us forever? Share your thoughts, and let's start a conversation.